Have a ham sandwich. I'd love to have a ham sandwich. I haven't had any mammal meat for 5 years because I was bitten by a tick and I have alpha-gal. But that's not what this is about. What I want to talk about is the relationship of the Jewish person to the Messiah Jesus. In Acts chapter 15 and verse 20, the council there at Jerusalem decided that a Gentile did not need to become a Jew to become a Christian. And that resolved the issue, and they went back on their own. But what has happened over the centuries is the reciprocal of that has happened. That Jew had to become a Christian before he was saved. He had to become a Christian as understood by we, the Gentiles, before they could accept the Messiah. In the book Hawaii, written by James Michener, the book was not historically very accurate, and he doesn't really treat the Christianity very fair, but he does depict missionaries from New England in the early 1800s requiring native Hawaiians to build wooden churches with steeples and dress like Puritans in order to be Christians. Kind of a similar thing, isn't it? If you want to be a Christian, you have to be like us. If you want to be a Christian, oftentimes missionaries project who they are from their home church onto the mission field. We were on the mission field in St. Lucia, and we learned some very difficult lessons that culture has got to be honored and followed. One of the mistakes that we made was that we rented a movie theater in the Caribbean, and we found out later that that was the devil's workshop. That was considered by the culture to be a no-no. People didn't go there if they had any kind of a faith in Jesus Christ. So culturally, we made a faux pas. We made a mistake. And what happens so often, though, is that we westernize and we Americanize the mission field, thinking that Christianity is what we see at home, and thus we project it onto the mission field. The same thing seems to have happened with the Jewish people. The same thing has happened to where they are being required, give up your culture, stop being a Jew to become a Christian. When people become Christians, they need to give up their sins, not their culture, except the specific elements that violates scriptural norms. So, what do we do with the Jewish person who became a Christian? Look at the Apostle Paul. The Apostle Paul did not stop being a Jew when he became a believer in Jesus Christ. He did not stop being a Jew when he believed in Jesus Christ. One of the things that he did practice was, according to the book of Acts, he regularly went to a synagogue. He took a Jewish vow. He rushed up to Jerusalem so that he could observe the Pentecost, and he paid for other Jews to offer Jewish sacrifices at the Jewish temple. Paul claimed that I have done nothing against the Torah. And he also said, I have done nothing contrary to the people or to the ancestral customs. Paul was a Christian. Paul was a believer, but he maintained his cultural identity, that being a Jew, and a Jew's Jew, somebody who was very much a Jew, and he maintained that throughout his Christian walk. Acts 15 does not prevent a Jew from maintaining and retaining their culture. How did we get to the statement, now that you're a Christian, have a ham sandwich, spoken to Jewish believers? How did we get there? By the 4th century, it was a custom, especially like at the Church of Constantinople, that a Jew had to affirm that if they wanted to join in with that church, they had to renounce their Jewishness. They had to renounce their culture. And in that statement that they had to sign, I renounce all customs, rites, legalisms, unleavened breads, and sacrifices of lambs of the Hebrews, and all the other feasts of the Hebrews, sacrifices, prayers, aspirations, purifications, sanctifications, propitiations, and fasts, and new moons, and Sabbaths, and superstitions, and hymns, and chants, and observances, and synagogues. And you see what they've just made them do? They had to renounce who they were to become a Christian. Do we do that today? Do we make people give up their culture to become a believer? Just think about what we do when we go into a different area. We force people into a mold that sometimes alienates them from their culture. And so what you end up being, and you have a little pocket of people who have a culture like a Western culture, living in an Eastern culture, say, that no longer accepts one another. There's a division there. If you force people to give up their culture to become a Christian, you have forced people to give up their livelihood. You force people to give up their family and who they are, the identity. So it's a thing we've added on to Jesus as the Messiah. Jesus said, come to me. And he said, believe in me, have faith in me. But he didn't say anything about giving up who you were, what you were, or your culture. The Jewish culture is just one example of what we have forced as a group of believers, of Christian believers, onto other nations to what they have to become. What does it mean to become a believer in a culture different than your own? You become like that culture. How does it mean for a Jew to become a believer? Well, like the Apostle Paul. Do you maintain the rituals? Yes. The ceremonies? Yes. The holidays? Yes. You don't give up who you are just because somebody says, here's what Christianity should be. I think it's spelled out very well in a book called Restoring the Jewishness of the Gospel. And it was written by David H. Stern. He is a Messianic Jew, and he's trying to deliver this message to us that being a believer does not mean that you stop being who you are in your culture. It's a good lesson for us to learn, and it's something that we can apply across the board with people we meet everywhere. We even see that cultural differences within our own country. Don't force people to stop being who they are to become a believer in Jesus Christ. He's worth it. God bless you.